All righty. There we go. Okay, ladies, hello. So, if you are in my group, Women Helping Women Invest in Real Estate, I have given up on the Facebook Live. We will just go live here on my YouTube channel. It is very easy. I just get on here and I go live. So, I will give everyone a minute to come over to the channel so you're able to see me. Okay, so if you could tell me who you are in the chat, so I know that everybody has made their way over here. Let me know who you are on the Facebook. So I know everybody has made their way over here so we can just go ahead and get started without any issues. Let's see. Hey, y'all. I hope you all made it over here. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I will post this in the Facebook group, but I can't do any more Facebook issues. It's driving me insane. So I will post this as well in the Facebook group. Those of you who are my YouTube subscribers, I have a Facebook group, Women Helping Women Invest in Real Estate. And in the Facebook group, we talk about real estate investing. And right on Tuesdays, we do a live chat where I do a live teaching on Tuesdays at 7:15 p.m. I had issues with it on Tuesday, and then it was working today. And as soon as 7:30 hit, there were issues with it. So we're just gonna bring it over to my YouTube because I don't have issues doing lives on my YouTube. So what are we doing today? Excuse me. So if you're not a part of the Facebook group, make sure you join the Facebook group because we go over a lot of information and normally we have a live every Tuesday. So today I want to talk about different ways to buy real estate. Not different ways to buy real estate, different types of real estate you can buy because we always hear a lot about one or two such as house hacking, but we don't always hear about the other ones. And there are really four different types of real estate, but there are many different strategies of real estate investing. So I want to go over that. Hey, Angel. Hey, Monique C, Monique M. I'm glad you were able to convert over here. We're going to actually get through this on YouTube. I love my trusty YouTube channel. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you're not in the Women Helping Women Facebook group, join that group and we'll get started. So, the first type and the most basic type of real estate property that you can buy is land, just raw land. You can go out here and you can buy a plot of land, which is going to be way less than buying a house because there's nothing on it. But you can go and you can buy a plot of land. Um, that land could be, it could be in a subdivision and you're having the subdivision build a house on that land. That land can be farmland. It can be agriculture. Sometimes you'll see where they're selling off plots of land. There may be a landowner that owns acres and they may be selling off a couple of acres. So you can actually go in and buy that land. The thing about land is it's not the most plentiful thing. Once the land is bought up, it's gone. So, land is one of those things that you can actually consider buying even if you're not thinking about putting a house on it, you can actually go buy land and just hold it. Land goes up in value. The reason why land goes up in value is because we can't make any more land. So that is something that's pretty important, when you're looking at things you want to buy. Maybe you can't buy the house right now, but can you buy a plot of land in an area that you feel and you've done the research on is up and coming or is getting ready to start booming? Maybe you can buy that land and either develop on it later when there's more equity in that land, or you get some funds to develop on that land. Or maybe you can use that land and sell it later, to make the money on that land. Or something that a lot of people don't consider is you can use that land and lease it. A lot of people don't know Madison Square Garden is on leased land. They do not own that land in New York. That land is actually leased. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the lease is for 99 years. So every 99 years, they have to renew the lease on that land. So imagine that. Imagine you buy a plot or two of land and it's a lease on it. They literally pay you every month, or maybe they pay you annually for this land. You pass this on to your children. Your children are then paid for this land. They pass this on to their children. Now your grandchildren are paid for this land. And the only thing you did was you bought a plot of land. So land is inexpensive compared to homes. I have purchased land in Africa, and this is one of my exit strategies, is leasing out my land to larger companies that will then come later and want to build on this land because it is in the business district of a major airport. So I anticipate that other people will want to use my land. So one of my exit strategies is leasing my land. If you want to know more about that, buying land in Africa, actually, since we're on my YouTube, there's an interview about it on my YouTube about how myself and one of the ladies I know bought land in Africa. So the next thing that you can invest in is residential property. So everybody is familiar with residential property. That's when you buy a house. That is when you may buy a townhome. You may buy a what is it called? I don't know if the official name is trailer park, but you know what I mean. You may buy a I can't think of the official name right now, but you can buy a trailer that is residential. So we're very much familiar with that. Are y'all with me so far? If you're with me, go ahead and tell me, yes, I'm with you. Yes. Yeah. 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 No, Usher came to my mind. Let me know y'all still with me. Give me a little heart or say yes or something. Okay. So the next one that gets a little bit more tricky. You're familiar with it, but not as much. Mobile home. There we go. Correct word is mobile home. um, but the next one is commercial. So commercial property is something that you and I can still buy. It's not like we absolutely cannot buy. You can buy commercial land. So there is land for sale, and that land for sale is typically going to be more expensive for commercial property, because, well, it's zoned commercial, which means a business can come on it. So that is commercial land. For example, my land in Africa is actually mixed use. So I'll get into that. But it can be used for commercial land. Businesses are part of commercial real estate. So your shopping malls, your stores, your office parks, your medical buildings, hotels. People don't think about the fact, these doctors' offices are in they're in buildings. You can buy a small building, separate it out, and rent it out to different people. So a lot of times we do run to residential real estate, but commercial real estate allows a lot of different avenues as well. And the good thing about commercial real estate is it's less hands-on. When you have a commercial tenant, you're not necessarily going to have somebody that's calling about a toilet all the time. They don't have a kitchen most of the time. They may have a little kitchenette in the break room. But they don't have all these individual things that you worry about when you're owning residential property. The other thing is they also they don't sleep there. They're typically not there on weekends. So if something goes wrong, they're probably not bothering you during that time because they're home too. So that's the other part, is your commercial. Then the last one is industrial. Industrial is kind of the one that we don't think about as much, but industrial will include factories, mechanical production, it may be research, it may be construction, where they do construction. I know there's a rock quarry a little ways away. That is an industrial lot. Transportation, logistics, warehousing, all of those fall under industrial. Now, then we have our mixed use or our multi-use. With your mixed use, you basically have more than this land is zoned. When I say zoned, the government, the city, whatever officials have determined this particular land or this particular property is can be used for more than one thing. So maybe it can be used for commercial and residential. My land in Africa is zoned that way. I did multi-use, commercial and residential, in the business district, because in my mind, if the Hyatt decided they want to build some hotels there, somebody's going to want to build hotels. And I'm right in the middle of that area. So if the Hyatt decides they want to build some hotels there, thank you, Akela. If somebody decides they want to build some hotels there, they can come and they can lease my land. I'm not selling my land. They can lease my land from me, because you may need some of my plots. My plots may be in the middle of what you want to do. Well, sure, Mr. Hilton, you can lease my land from me. But guess what? Let's say it's not Mr. Hilton. Let's say it's D.H. Horton. They made it out to Africa some way or another. They want to build some houses. They're a very popular, well, they were, I don't know if they still are, very popular house builder in Georgia. I'm not sure if they're anywhere else. Let's say they decide, well, we want to build some condos on this land, but you're in the middle of our land. Well, sure, Mr. Horton, you can lease my land from me, and you can lease it for 99 years. Thank you. Make sure you write those checks out to me, and then in my will, will be written out to my children, and it will be carried on. And they just need to make sure they renew my land title, because you may need to renew your land title, especially if it's overseas, every so often. So they paid a little 20 something dollars or 40 something dollars, renew that, and they continue to collect funds. So those are your 4 different types of land. Let me know if y'all have any questions about that. If you don't, say you're good, and then we're going to move on. But let me know, do you have any questions about those 4 types of land? And or if you don't have any question, which one do you think you would be more interested in, and why do you think that one would interest you? So let me know that in the chat. And let me know I'm not here alone. So which type of land we talked about? Well, which type of property? We talked about land, residential, commercial, industrial, or multi-use. If you just got a bag, you just got a bag of money. You got $40,000. Which one would you do? Okay, Monique says she do the mix because of the flexibility. Okay. Anyone else? What would you do? What would be your preference? Because this is what you need to know. A lot of people skip these steps, but it's good to know just these basics, so that you know what you're getting into. Because we're just, a lot of times we're just jumping into what sounds hot at the time. Um, AKH, you said you're good. You're taking in all the information. You like the idea of leasing land. Monique C, commercial. There's a lot of empty buildings available. There are a lot of empty buildings. And do you know why that is, Monique? Do you know why there's a lot of empty buildings right now? Akia said multi-use. Yoli said mixed. Monique said the idea of leasing land. Monique Morrow said the idea of, I got three Moniques on here tonight. So Monique C, I want you to tell me, do you know why there's so many empty buildings right now? Because there's a very specific reason why. Remote work. Yes. So basically when COVID hit and everybody had to transition to remote work, what a lot of companies found was that their dollar amount was not being affected by their workers working from home. Because you got to think about it, if they're not in the building, you got your building fees, you have utilities, unless those are wrapped into the building fees. You may do lunch and learns. There's all these different things that come into play. Your building may furnish water, and water doesn't seem like a lot until you got to pay this person on a regular basis. All those deliveries, all these different things that come with being in a building, all of these things make a difference. And what they found was, by not having these people in the building, they were still getting the work done, but it wasn't affecting their bottom line. If anything, they were saving money by having more remote workers in the industries that could have more remote workers. Now we'll probably see a few people go back into the office. We're already seeing it. But some companies, they just decided, no, we're not going to do it. Now the thing about commercial is those are very long leases. We're not doing a year or two leases in commercial. You do 5, 10 years, 10-year leases in commercial. So even though those buildings are empty, does not mean their leases are up. And that doesn't mean anybody is letting them out of their leases. That's why you see that a lot of those buildings that are empty are being turned into things like internet cafes and co-working spaces. Because when you have people working at home for remote work, they tend to want to get out at some point, go into an office at some point. Maybe it gets loud in the house. They need a change of scenery. They need an address to now have their things shipped to. So those co-working spaces provide those different things. So even though what we saw was pretty unprecedented in our world, there are things that happen like that shifts real estate, and it shifts the industry. So when you're looking, if you say you want a commercial space, you want to make sure you're not doing something that's a dying breed, like what can y'all think of that's a dying breed? Because I know it off the top of my head. Very large commercial space that I personally would not even invest in right now. Can you think of a commercial space that it doesn't seem like people are really utilizing anymore? I know there's normally a little delay, so I'm gonna give y'all a chance to see if you come up with that. What is this commercial space outside of the office buildings? Because we know office buildings is one. The other commercial space is malls. Malls are a dying breed. Yep, Yoli said it. Malls are a dying breed. People are not going there. They are ordering online, or they're going to strip malls where you have maybe a Target. You may have a Walmart, a TJ Maxx, stuff like that. When was the last time you've been in a mall? And if you did go in the mall, when was the last time you actually walked around the mall and didn't go to one store, got your stuff, and left? So, even though commercial is a very good place to invest, you got to make sure you don't invest in dying breeds. So, the next thing I want to touch on, and normally I don't do as long, I like to do 15 to 30 minutes, but do you have any questions about that? I want to see if we can go on to the next thing, or if we should say that for next Tuesday. So, any questions about the four different types? Throw that in the chat. Do you know if the government has eminent domain privileges or mineral privileges of the land? Sorry, I'm late. Eminent domain is a America thing. Not as much a thing outside of America. Every country does have their own laws. Um, if they were now, so in Africa, what they're doing is they are starting to create laws as they go along. That's kind of what they do overseas. So you kind of roll with it and, roll with the punches. However, for me, the amount that I paid for my land and the amount that I could even sell it for in a year was worth that small risk of whatever the new laws are. They're not going to, take your land there. And the reason they're not going to take your land is because it's their people that's selling the land. They want the land sold. They need someone to come and develop on it. It's like you could own 20 acres, right? But if you own 20 acres and you got $50,000, 20 acres does you no good. If you own 20 acres and you sell 5 acres and you make $1 million, then 15 acres does you a lot better than the 20 acres did, if that makes sense. So that's the thing. They can't develop on all of this land. They actually need foreigners to come and develop on their land. They've done a lot of development. This is in Kigali, Rwanda. They've done quite a bit of development, but they still need developers to come in and do things. So there would really be no reason for them to come and take this land back. They know what their land is. Their land is surveyed. So yeah, that's the thing. But when you look at land that may have been in your family for hundreds of years, that's a lot of times when you'll see something like that happen, because it's like, oh, now we need this land. And even with eminent domain, they are required to pay you for your land. I can't say that it's fair pricing, but they do. So now I want to go into, I want to talk a little bit about the different type of investment strategies that we look at. So, with your residential, you're going to have your single family homes, your multifamily homes, which is 1 to 4 units. Um, and a lot of times with that, people talk about house hacking, but we'll get into that as well. So you have your multifamily and your single family. With your multifamily, that is, 2 to 4 units. So whether you have a duplex, a triplex, or a quad, that is considered a residential multifamily. The single family home is just as it says, one family would live in that particular home. Whereas the multifamily, it is zoned for multifamily and it is made for multifamily. Now, there are times where people will convert a single family home into a multifamily home. that may be, they have an upstairs and downstairs. There's two separate entrances, and they will go in and use their basement, and they will put in maybe a kitchenette, put in some bedrooms, some office space, and they will create a multifamily home that may not be zoned as a multifamily, but that doesn't mean they're not marketing it as multifamily. One of the big differences is if it is a true multifamily, it will actually be separated off by meters. There will be meters for each home. Then you have multifamily commercial. Anything over 5 units is commercial. Now, this can sometimes change depending on where you are. And sometimes they will say 5 units or 2 to 5 units is residential. But for the most common typical way, it's one unit single family, 2 to 4 units is residential multifamily, 5 units or greater is a commercial multifamily. So our apartment homes are commercial multifamily. So basically, if you bought a property and you had 4 units and I bought a property and I had 5 units, I actually have a commercial property. I can get commercial financing. I can get investors. I can create a syndication. You have a residential, so things are different. You would get a residential loan. You would get residential backing. You could still do a partnership, but residential will be a little bit different than commercial. Then you have your commercial properties that we talked about that you can invest in as well. Then the last thing I'm going to go into, and I'm going to just touch on it because we'll probably talk about them in a little bit more detail at later dates. But I want to touch on a couple of things. One is house hacking. We hear a lot of times where people talk about house hacking. Before I go into that, throw any questions in the chat if you have any questions for me. So we have the house hacking. People talk a lot about house hacking. What is house hacking? House hacking is when you buy a residential multi-family property. You live in one unit and you rent out the other units. So whether you have 2 units, 3 or 4, you will live in one and rent out the other. The goal of the multifamily house hacking is to pay your mortgage. You may get lucky, make more than your mortgage, but it's at least to pay your mortgage. And then with that, you can rinse and repeat. So you basically stay there a year because typically you want to use FHA, and then you go stay somewhere. Then you get another one. That's one way to tackle the investment strategy. Another one I want to talk to you about is real estate syndications. So I talk about real estate syndications pretty often because that is what I primarily invest in. The reason why is what I primarily invest in because it is passive, and not passive like, oh, you got to do all this work every couple of months. Passive like once you learn it, once you create a criteria, then you will be able to take that knowledge and invest in other real estate syndications. What is a real estate syndication? That is basically where you make an investment of a certain amount of funds, let's say $25,000. You take $25,000 and you purchase a percentage of a property, whether that is an apartment building, a hotel, a storage facility, even land. All those different things have real estate syndications. Because guess what? Everybody doesn't have $1 million laying around to buy a property, but you may have a few thousand that you can use to invest in a property, or you may use different accounts. There's different accounts you can use to invest in a property. So you can buy that investment and there are general partners that actually manage the whole thing. They do everything. They find the property, they make sure the property is functioning, they manage all the updates, they manage the property management. What you do is you take your amount of money and you invest it in the syndication. And what they do in turn is they pay you. They may pay you quarterly, they may pay you yearly, but you basically receive the money. So once you invest, you get the money back. I had someone ask me today on a one-to-one call. They said, well, what's the return on investment? Well, the thing with real estate syndications is you're told what your return is in the very beginning. You'll know if you're going to make double, if you're going to make a quarter, if you're going to make triple. For me, I have a set criteria. I need to make double in X number of years. I don't like to wait too long, and I want to make sure my money comes quarterly to I like my money quarterly, not as much annually. But you can find out about that. You will find out about that in the beginning. How do you find syndications? Syndications require you to know someone that is in a syndication. The reason why is because syndications are they're they fall under the SEC guidelines, the Security Exchange Commission. They have set guidelines, and one of the guidelines of a syndication is that if you are allowing individuals that make less than 250,000 a year to invest, they must know you by a means other than advertising. The reason for that is they did not want people investing in syndication that they did not consider financially astute. So only syndications you will see advertised are for people that make more than 250,000 a year. So you do need to know someone, or you do need to have a sponsor for real estate syndications to find out about them. And that's what I do with my students. I am their sponsor, and I bring them into different groups that I'm in for real estate syndications so they can get exposure and build that network. So that's how I work with them. I do a full mentorship program teaching them about the syndications, creating criteria, and then introducing them to different groups and things of that nature. But if you don't have a sponsor, you have to go out there and find them, because syndications were made for the rich. They were not made for your mid to moderate class individuals. It's basically, I call it the greatest kept secret of the rich. That's now, only a few of us are starting to learn about it, because you have to know somebody to, start investing in the syndications. It has to be on that legal document that somebody was a sponsor, or you knew this person through that person, and all of those different things. So I do like to send out those syndications so they can start looking at them. And that's something that we do. We go over a lot of syndications. The next thing, and if you have more questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. The next thing are rental arbitrage. This is dealing with short-term, mid-term, and long-term rentals. Typically, short-term and mid-term rentals, you can do something called rental arbitrage. Quick and dirty thing. Quick and dirty definition: you rent a property and then you rent it out again. Basically, you're subleasing it to somebody else, subletting it to someone else, and you're making your money that way. Let's see. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about was REITs. That's another thing that people ask a lot about. Those are real estate investment trust. And those are kind of like dealing in the stock market, because with REITs, what you do is you invest in a trust, because a RET is a real estate investment trust. You invest in a trust, and this trust is under a company that may have offices, apartment buildings, warehouses, different type of commercial things, but you just buy a very small percentage of it because it's more so in the real estate, not in the real estate, in the stock market. So you don't ever really know what you're investing in. It's kind of like when you invest in your mutual funds, and they're like, okay, you have some in this, some in this, some of this, and some in this. You don't really know what this is. They tell you that's where it is. You tell them, okay. It's the same thing with the RET. You have some in this, some of this, some in this, and some in this. And you're like, you don't really know what it is, but you know that it's making you money. You put the money there, you let it make you money, and then you don't say much of anything unless the stocks, like the stock market, start to fall, and you're like, wait, hold up, what happened to my money? But yeah, so that's basically how that works. You invest it in it just like you would the stock market, but just like you would when you invest in like mutual funds, you don't have a whole lot of control on what's going on. With a syndication, there's syndications where you invest in the building, so you know what building there is, but then there's syndication funds as well, where you're investing in the team, and that team goes out and they put your money in different properties, so they have a number of different properties. Whereas with a regular syndication, you invest in that building. So it just depends on how much control you want over things. I kind of like to see where my money is going. And then I like getting my progress reports and my updates. I do meetings for my buildings. Even though I'm not there doing any of the day to day, I like to have those updates. Whereas with your REITs, you're more just going to see your numbers. And then with your syndication trust, you're probably going to more so see your numbers, but you should kind of have an idea of, excuse me, what they're investing in with the syndication trust, because that you're investing with that team. So unlike the REIT, you will still know what it is that you're investing in, and you will have pictures of the property. If they're doing updates, they can see you pictures of those updates. So it's a little bit more. So I would say it's more tangible than a REIT, but it's less tangible than just a syndication of one apartment building or one hotel. So I think that is it for today. Let's see. Are you involved in any syndications in the USA or international? Syndications are in the USA because they are guided by the SEC Commission, the Security Exchange Commission, and that is a U.S. entity. Is that to say that you couldn't do a partnership outside of the U.S.? Yeah, you could definitely do that, but by definition, it would not be syndication. My experience with syndications, good and bad. Bad when you don't know what you're doing and you put all your money in there and you think that you know, and you listen to what people say, and in the end it doesn't make the money that's it's supposed to make. But there were all these red flags that if you actually knew what was going on, you wouldn't have had that situation. That was my very first syndication. It was a mentor of mine, and I thought that, he was there to help us, and he had no idea what was really going on. So that's how I ended up starting to really, really learn more about syndications. And I realized every red flag there was to have, he had. There wasn't one red flag that he skipped over. The only difference was I was uneducated. I was uneducated at the time. And it wasn't just me, it was a lot of different people that were there. And we were all very uneducated. So we all invested in that real estate. And, you know, for me, Mm, it cost me money, but it actually made me a lot of money because I did deep dive and I learned a lot about syndications and different types of real estate. So, it's a curse and a blessing all at the same time. But when you're talking about investing 10, 15, 25, 50, $100,000, you want to make sure that you're very knowledgeable of what the syndications, what they consist of, what's a good number, what's a bad number, what's your criteria, what you want to know, should I go ahead with this one, should I skip this one, should I wait on that one? So I think that that's probably the most important, and that shaped my experience because in the future I made better decisions about what syndications I would invest in. But I don't know, real estate is tricky when you go at it by yourself. You kind of, there's kind of a saying that we just kind of know we're going to lose money if you don't get somebody to help you, a mentor or something like that, and you go at it by yourself. You that money just kind of floats away. You can read all kinds of books, but until you get that real life experience, but so invest, whether you use that money to invest in something and learn basically on the job training, or you use that money to invest in maybe a mentor or a coach, you're going to have to make some type of investment in real estate to really learn the ropes. As far as the return, everybody sets a criteria. I don't invest in anything that gives me less than double in 5 years. So if at for my criteria, if I'm not at least doubling my income in 5 years, I don't look any further. But that is my investment criteria based off of my investment goals. Your criteria and your goals your criteria will be different depending on what your goals are. So a lot of times I like to know what my students' goals are, and then we can come up with an investment strategy for them because their strategy probably isn't going to just be one type of investment and maybe two types of investment that get you where you want to go quicker. So it's not always a cookie cutter, one size fits all. So I like to make sure I know what the goals are, long term goals and short term goals. So that's definitely what I do. If you have joined us, make sure you are part of the Women Helping Women Invest in Real Estate Facebook group. I will post that in the chat. I got on my YouTube. I normally do this in the group, but I got on my YouTube because the YouTube wasn't working. So this was kind of a treat today. But normally this teaching, this is normally a teaching Tuesday, takes place in the group. So make sure you join the group. And I will post that link here. That's the group. If you would like to sign up for a discovery call, so we can talk about your goals and how we can get you in the best type of strategy for your particular goals, I will put the link here. If you would like to do that, then that's for your strategy call. I'll put the link there. We're on YouTube, so make sure you like and subscribe. Go right ahead. And if you have come over here from my Facebook group, the Women Helping Women Facebook group, like this page, but also subscribe because I do have a playlist for real estate where I walk different properties and we talk about how the different changes you can make. So if you're one of those people that's thinking about doing fix and flips or rehabs, I do show you how I walk properties and how the things that we look at for rehabs. So you can learn quite a bit of information there for that. Let's see. So I told you if you're on the YouTube, I told you about the Facebook group. If you're in the Facebook group, I told you about the videos available on YouTube. Told all of you all about the strategy call. So make sure you book that if you are interested in pursuing real estate as your steps of retirement or decreasing work or replacing that commercial income, commercial property, corporate income. Let me know if you have any more questions. Any more questions? You all have been a lovely audience. Thank you for working with me. I know we've had some technical difficulties, but we will be back on Tuesday, 7:15 for Teaching Tuesdays. And I'm hoping that Facebook does better. But if not, we'll just jump over here. But we will be back for Teaching Tuesdays. So make sure you're part of that group. I don't see any other questions. You're welcome. Okay. I don't know. Is that how you say your name? You're welcome, Lily. Anything else? You're welcome, Yoli. Anything else? Let's see. So you all are so welcome. I hope you got value out of this right here. It will be available. What I may do is require a link to watch it, though. And if I do, that link will be in the Women Helping Women Facebook group. So you'll be able to click on that link and go back in and watch this when you would like to. Okay. All right. You're welcome, Monique. You all have been wonderful. I think I'm actually going to go home. I'm in my rehab house right now. So thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful evening. I will post this in the Facebook group and ciao.